Hello, and welcome back to the Bitter BM podcast. I'm Felicia, your Bitter BM, and here I speak about all the things that made me bitter, but transformed me and made me into the person I am today. So, I literally just finished my therapy session with my therapist. I have therapy twice a month, every 2 weeks, and going into this therapy session, I was like, man, I don't even have nothing to talk about in this therapy session today. Lo and behold. Once I got to yapping, I had a lot to talk about apparently. So today just happens to be a relative's birthday. And I mentioned this to the therapist and said how last year on their birthday, I actually sent them a gift, monetary gift, but that this year it wasn't happening because as it turns out, today I have therapy, which I have to pay for out of pocket because it's not covered by insurance. I don't have insurance to cover that. And then I also have to send my grandmother's monthly monetary fund so that she could pay her bills and buy food to eat. Something many people don't know. I actually support my grandmother. The money that I used to give to my adult children while they were in school, I've transferred over to my grandmother to help her support herself. Because one thing about me, my grandmother not going to be struggling as long as I'm alive. I don't know who in y'all family, y'all got that one person that you feel was so instrumental in your life, and my grandmother is 100% instrumental in the mother that I am to my children. Because if I don't remember my own mother taking care of me, I remember my grandmother and a specific aunt of mine taking very good care of me. So no questions asked, my grandmother's getting her money when it's time every single month. No questions asked. And I don't care if anyone ever has a problem with that when they find out any family members. Get on my grandmother's level is what I have to say, y'all. Get on her level, okay? But anywho, I mentioned that to the therapist. And then, we just got into talking about things. And then we got into speaking about how I have to take time to reparent myself. I spoke about hugging my mother for the first time. I don't remember my mom ever being affectionate towards me growing up. I'm assuming, because it just seems like a natural thing to have happened, that she hugged my brother and I when we first met her, once we immigrated where we live. I'm not going to say it. Y'all could probably tell on YouTube anyways what country I'm from. But I'm going to give her the credit and grace to say she did it then. But I don't have any other recollection of her being affectionate towards me. And it just so happened that I saw her outside a few years ago. We had a conversation. This is when we still communicated with each other regularly. I saw her outside. We were speaking for a little bit. And then when it was time for us to leave each other, I got up from where I was sitting and I hugged her. She hugged me back. And that's the only time I can remember us ever embracing. So in talking about that, I got back to the thoughts of me always feeling like I'm not good enough. I had a physics midterm of last week and I didn't do good. And those thoughts kept coming back where I started telling myself, well, it's sort of expected because growing up, that's what I always heard. I wasn't going to be anything. And I guess I've carried that with me. So my therapist was explaining to me that whenever I don't do good at something, that's like my automatic thought process. I get into those thoughts where I continue to think that and that I need to reparent myself into understanding that that is not true and how I should look back at my life and all that I've accomplished given the circumstances and that I've actually done very well for myself. I will admit it's not something I do all the time. Like last podcast, I think I was hinting at the fact that I always keep myself busy as a distraction to prevent me from thinking about all the negative things that are happening in my life. Because I always heard that I wasn't going to amount to anything when I was growing up, I never really, outside of being a mom, I never felt like I had to pursue anything for a long time until I realized that having kids, I had to be an example for them. So yes, I could tell my kids to go to school and try to get an education, but if I wasn't trying to elevate myself educational wise or financial wise, then that wouldn't be a good example. It would basically be teaching them that, hey, once you decide that you're in a comfortable place, you don't necessarily have to strive for more. And I think I was actually having a discussion with my daughter, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, where she was mentioning the fact that she's always seen me work so hard to take care of her sister and herself, and that means a lot to her. And that also means a lot to me, because if there's nothing else I could have ever taught my kids, I wanted them to see that no matter how bad your situation got, you should always try to do better. Always strive for more, because you can do more. You can do better for yourself. Never get too complacent in wherever you are in life. There's always more out there. There's always more to learn. There's always more places to see, more places to be. There's more. The world is just a ginormous place, and there are no limits. Hearing that I wasn't going to be so much when I was younger from my mom actually did for me was put limits on my life. And I got to thinking about this, and what I thought about was, I guess that's always been at the back of my mind subconsciously, and I always knew that I never wanted to put any limits on my children's lives. So I never wanted to put them down in any way, to discourage them in any way. I always wanted them to feel like they could accomplish anything. If you are not intentionally trying to hurt your child, you're not going to tell them that they're a piece of shit and they're not going to grow up to be anything. That's not something that would come out of your mouth, right? It's no surprise I ended up having, intercourse early. It's no surprise I ended up being taken advantage by men older than me. It's no surprise I got pregnant as a teen mother. It's no surprise I was homeless. No surprise I dropped out of high school. Like, those things are actually not surprising. She did me a very big disservice by not actually speaking life into me, by not affirming me. And having experienced this, I can say I 100% affirm my girls all the time. Like, you can't tell my kids nothing. My kids know they're smart. They know they're beautiful. They know they could do whatever they want. They know they're going to be rich. They know they're not going to end up being baby mamas and, dealing with men who don't have any high standards. My kids got some standards, okay? Just because I didn't have it, it doesn't mean that I'm going to prevent my kids from having it by putting limits on their life. I think what often happens is that people have these self-limiting beliefs that they don't grow out of, and so they transfer that onto their kids. I definitely have self-limiting beliefs, but I tried my best not to transfer that onto my own kids, because I knew exactly what would be the outcome. Like, my life would basically be perpetuated into my kids' future, and that would just become, that vicious traumatic cycle that happens in a lot of families. I absolutely wanted to put an end to a lot of things. Single motherhood. My mother was a single mother. My grandma was a single mother. A lot of the women in my family are single mothers. That's not something I wanted to happen to my kids. My children were always taught to get their education and have kids after they've completed that. If they had boyfriends, you best believe I asked them if they were, active and if they needed birth control. And I'm not saying it would be the worst thing for my kids to get pregnant, but if they did, there would be a plan in place for them to continue their education and for them to continue and get the careers they always dreamed of. I was saying to my therapist that how I feel, I wish my mom would be the parent. Like, even now, I wish that she would be a parent to me rather than me have to parent myself or reparent myself. And I say that in part because trying to reparent yourself is so goddamn difficult. It's the equivalent of raising your children and raising yourself at the same time. And although my children are adults, I'm still a very, very much involved parent. Like, I'm all up in their business, asking questions. Like, I literally go up to them, sit down, and start talking about how their life's going. And obviously, they share with me what they want to share. But it's just realizing that because I didn't have parents. I would say parents. They were alive, but they weren't parenting me. Because I didn't have that, now as an adult, I'm forced to do that for myself, or deal with the consequence of not being able to let people in.